Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It started with a look. You know the kind, the one that lingers a moment too long, says 1,000 things, and still keeps you guessing. We were standing on opposite sides of a room filled with laughter, low music, and glasses clinking. She wore this unsure smile like a shield, her fingers brushing the rim of her glass nervously. I watched her, not because she was the most beautiful woman there, though she easily was, but because something about her silence was louder than the noise around us. Her name was Elena. Smart, sharp, and stunning in a way that didn't try too hard. She had this habit of looking away just as you were about to get close, like she knew how dangerous it could be to let someone in. I'd been around long enough to recognize the walls people build. But I was also the kind of man who didn't back away just because someone whispered, "I'm not ready." That's exactly what she told me that night. I'd walked her to her car, the city lights casting a soft glow on her face. The night was still, but heavy with everything unsaid. "I'm not ready," she said, voice low, eyes avoiding mine. And I'd smiled, a quiet kind of smile. "That's fine," I said, stepping back. "Someone else will be." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't bitterness. It was honesty. Because love isn't about waiting until someone finally feels safe. It's about knowing when to stay and when to let go. But the story didn't end there. That moment? It was just the beginning. What came next was unexpected. Elena didn't disappear after that night. In fact, it was almost like that single sentence lit something inside her. Like the idea of losing someone who actually saw her was more terrifying than the risk of being seen. She started showing up. At the cafe where I usually worked late. At the gallery opening I casually mentioned in passing. And then, one night on my doorstep. No warning. Just her and that same nervous smile. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what you said. You see, the thing about romance is, it's never just about love. It's about timing, fear, ego, and all the quiet wars we fight within ourselves. It's about the people who come into our lives when we least expect them and challenge the comfort we've built around our hearts. This story isn't about a perfect love. It's about the complicated kind. The kind that makes you question yourself. The kind that forces you to choose, hold on and risk the fall, or let go and live with a what if. So, what would you do if someone said they weren't ready? Would you wait? Would you walk away? Or would you give them a reason to believe that not every love ends in heartbreak? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you give someone time or move on if they weren't on the same page? Vote in the poll right here and let's see what you think. Everyone's story is different, but sometimes the hardest decisions bring us the clearest truths. And just when it seemed like Elena was opening up, something happened that changed everything. But we'll get to that in the next part. She stood there on my doorstep like the wind had pushed her all the way here but forgot to tell her why. Her arms were wrapped around herself, like she was either cold or trying to keep something inside from spilling out. I didn't say a word, just opened the door wider. She stepped in slowly, almost like she was waiting for me to change my mind. We sat in silence for a while. No music, no words, just the soft ticking of the wall clock and the hum of city life outside my window. She looked around the room like she was searching for a version of herself she left behind somewhere. "I didn't expect you to actually move on," she finally said. I turned to her, surprised. "You thought I was bluffing?" She gave a small, sad laugh. "No, I just thought, maybe you'd wait a little longer." "Elena," I said gently, "you asked for space. I gave you that. But I won't stand still forever." She nodded, like she knew I was right but didn't want to admit it. There was something in her eyes that night, something restless. Like she wanted to run and stay at the same time. That's the part that always gets me. The push and pull, the closeness and distance. That space in between where most love stories break or build. She started opening up little by little after that. Not in the way most people do. She didn't spill secrets or pour out her past. It was more like she let me in, one glance at a time. A text at midnight. A hand that lingered just a second longer. A smile that said she wanted to trust me, even if she didn't know how. I found out she'd been hurt before. Not the kind of hurt that leaves bruises, but the kind that settles deep and makes you question every good thing. She had been in love once, deep, real love. But it ended without warning. No closure. No answers. Just a phone call that changed everything. After that, she decided not to get too close to anyone again. So when I came along, she panicked. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't being alone. It's finding someone who makes you believe you don't have to be. The more time we spent together, the more I could feel her fighting it. Every time I pulled her closer, something inside her pulled away. And every time I gave her space, she came back needing more of me than before. It was like standing in the middle of a storm, unsure if it was going to pass or take everything with it. Then came the night she asked me a question I wasn't ready for. If I had said I was ready, that night, would you have still said someone else will be? I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I knew exactly what she was asking. She wasn't just talking about that night. She was asking if she'd already lost me. If it was too late. I looked at her then, not the version she showed the world, but the one she tried so hard to hide. The girl who loved too deeply once and paid the price for it. Elena, I whispered, you still haven't told me what you're ready for. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. And for the first time, I thought maybe she was about to let me in completely. But then, her phone rang. And, just like that, everything changed. She didn't answer it. Just stared at the name on the screen like it was a ghost she thought she buried. And maybe it was. Because the look on her face told me someone from her past was back. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was part of her story anymore, or just the pause between two chapters. So tell me, what would you do if the person you were finally getting close to still had someone else holding the last page of their heart? Drop your answers in the comments. Was she right to come back? Or should I have let her go the moment she said she wasn't ready? Your thoughts could shape the next chapter. She didn't move. Just sat there, staring at the name on her phone like it wasn't real. I leaned in slightly, trying to read her face, but it had gone blank, too calm. And when someone looks that calm, it usually means they're fighting something loud inside. Elena, I said softly. You okay? She blinked, then finally hit the side button to silence the call. Yeah, just someone I didn't expect to hear from. I didn't push, but I didn't need to. Her body language said enough. Her shoulders stiffened, her hands fidgeted. And her eyes, those beautiful, complicated eyes, wouldn't meet mine anymore. The air between us changed. Heavier now. Unspoken things floating between us, louder than anything we could have said. I wanted to ask who it was, but I knew better. If she wanted to tell me, she would. That's the thing about romantic tension. It's not always about the kiss you didn't have. Sometimes it's about the conversation you didn't ask for. We tried to continue the night like nothing had happened. But we both felt it, the shift. She left early, claiming she had an early morning. I walked her to the door. She paused before stepping out, like she had something to say but changed her mind. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, the kind that felt more like a goodbye than a good night, and left. Days passed. She pulled back. Not completely, but enough to notice. Texts got shorter. Calls got fewer. And her eyes, when we did meet, carried a weight that wasn't there before. I started piecing things together. There was someone in her past. Someone she never talked about, but never fully let go of either. Maybe it was the same guy who walked away without warning. Or maybe it was more complicated than that. Meanwhile, something else was happening. I started seeing her with a different guy. Not in a romantic way, at least, not openly, but enough to make me notice. A tall guy with a clean-cut look, driving a black car. She said he was just someone from work, helping with a project. But the way she avoided details told me there was more. So I started wondering, was I the rebound? Or worse, the backup plan? And here's where things got even messier. A friend of mine, Kayla, ran into Elena at a downtown lounge one night. Said she was there with the same guy. No cozy moments, no touching. But the vibe? Off. Like they were having one of those deep conversations that only happen when history's involved. When I brought it up to Elena, she didn't deny it. Yes, I saw him, she said. We talked. That's all. She looked at me. Really looked. Do you want the truth? I nodded. I don't know what I'm doing, she said. You were right. I wasn't ready. And now, maybe I'm even more confused than before. I didn't know what hurt more, her honesty, or the feeling that I was slowly slipping from her story without a single chapter finished. So here's what I want to ask you. What would you do if someone said they didn't know what they were doing but still held your heart in their hands? Do you wait? Or walk away before it breaks you? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. Drop your predictions too. Who do you think the guy is? And what secret is she still hiding? Because here's the thing, something tells me this isn't just about love. It's about something deeper. And I'm not sure if I'm getting closer to the truth. Or being kept just far enough away. The silence between us had grown louder than any argument. You could feel it in the way she paused before speaking, the way I looked away when her phone buzzed. We were in the same room, yet on opposite sides of something we hadn't named. Every glance was a question, every touch a hesitation. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were supposed to be finding our way closer. But instead, we were drifting into unknown territory. Elena hadn't mentioned him again, not directly, but the signs were all around. Her sudden disappearances, the unexplained hours, the guarded way she spoke about her day. I tried not to overthink it, but that's the problem with doubt. It doesn't whisper, it screams in the quiet. I asked her once, "Are you still in love with him?" She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. She just looked at me, like she didn't know how to answer without breaking something between us. That moment hung in the air like smoke, refusing to clear. And even though she reached for my hand after, something in me had already started to pull away. A few days later, everything changed. I got a message. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. You don't know the whole story. Meet me. 8 p.m. Westbridge Cafe. My gut told me not to go. But curiosity has a way of winning when the heart's confused. So I went. And I wasn't ready for who I saw. It wasn't him. It was her sister, Nina. We'd only met once, briefly, but I remembered her eyes, sharp and observant, like she could see straight through a person. I know what's going on, she said, getting straight to the point. And I thought you deserved to hear the truth. I sat down slowly, unsure of what I was about to walk into. She never told you everything, Nina continued. About why she's like this. Why she pulls back. I didn't speak. I just waited. She was engaged, Nina said. To him. The guy who's been calling. But it ended badly, worse than badly. It got messy. He disappeared. Left her with unanswered questions and a lot of pain. Then, just when she started trying to move on, he came back. Last month. That hit me harder than I expected. He wants answers. Closure. Maybe more. I don't know, Nina said. But Elena, she's torn. She doesn't want to go back to him. But she's scared of falling for you. I nodded slowly. Everything started making sense. The hesitation. The silence. The way she'd hold me like she was there, but somewhere else too. What do I do with that? I asked. That's your call, Nina said. But whatever you decide, do it soon. That night, I drove to Elena's apartment. I didn't call. Didn't text. I just had to see her. When she opened the door, her face froze. Not in fear, but in knowing. You talked to Nina, she said quietly. I nodded. She stepped aside, letting me in, but the distance between us didn't shrink. I was going to tell you, she whispered. When? I asked. After you decided whether I was enough? She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. Instead, she sat down slowly on the edge of her couch, like her legs could no longer carry the weight of everything she'd been hiding. I didn't want you to be part of this, she said. I didn't want to drag you into my past. But I'm here now, I said. And I need to know, are you still in love with him? The room went still. My heartbeat sounded louder than her breathing. She opened her mouth to answer, but the doorbell rang. She froze. And I knew. He was here. So now I'll ask you, what would you do? Open the door? Walk away? Or stand there and watch everything fall apart? Let me know in the comments. What should I do next? Is she torn or already chosen? Your answers might just shape the ending. Oh, I'm it to never find out that I didn't move. Neither did she. The doorbell rang again, softer this time, like even he knew this was a moment that didn't belong to him yet. I turned to Elena. Her eyes were locked on the door, but her hands were trembling in her lap. I could tell she didn't expect him to actually show up. Not like this. Not now. Elena, I said quietly, you need to make a choice. Right here. Right now. She stood slowly, as if every step toward that door carried the weight of years. Just before she reached for the handle, she paused and turned to me. Whatever happens, I never meant to hurt you. But intentions only go so far when hearts are on the line. She opened the door, and it wasn't him. It was a woman. Older. Mid-40s maybe. Stylish. Confident. Cold eyes that immediately scanned the room and landed on me like I didn't belong. Elena, the woman said, her tone sharp, we need to talk. Elena's face turned pale. She looked back at me, as if to say not now, not here, not like this. I stepped forward. Who is she? The woman answered before Elena could. I'm his mother. Suddenly, everything in me went still. The mother of the man Elena had once been engaged to was standing in her doorway. Uninvited. Unapologetic. I know who you are, she said, eyeing me like I was something temporary. And I know why you're here. But before this gets more tangled than it already is, you need to understand, my son came back not for closure, but because Elena never told him the truth. I looked at Elena, stunned. What truth? Elena stepped back, away from both of us. Her voice was low, barely above a whisper. I thought I had more time. The woman stepped in now, her words razor-sharp. She was pregnant. After he left. And she never told him. Until recently. The words hit like ice. I looked at Elena, waiting for her to deny it. Waiting for some part of this to be wrong. But she didn't deny anything. It wasn't planned, she said quietly. I didn't know how to tell him. And when I finally decided to, he was gone. No contact. Nothing. But the child? I asked, heart pounding. I lost it, she said, her voice cracking. A few weeks later. And by the time I found him again, I didn't see the point. It felt like opening a wound that didn't need to bleed again. It all made sense now. The emotional walls. The silent grief. The parts of her she couldn't explain. But the question burned inside me, if she was hiding something that big, what else was she still keeping from me? The woman, sensing the storm she'd stirred, turned and left without another word. Elena closed the door softly behind her, leaning against it like her legs might give out. I should have told you, she said. Yeah, I replied. You should have. We stood in that quiet, broken space for a long time. And even though the truth had finally spilled out, it didn't bring us closer. It just made everything harder to hold. So now I'm asking you, if someone kept a secret like that, even out of pain, could you still trust them? Or is that the kind of lie that changes everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Elena's next move should be? Should I walk away or stay and try to understand the rest of her story? Because something tells me the past isn't done with us yet. The silence after she closed the door felt like a wave had just crashed through the room and left us in the wreckage. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what I was feeling. Shock, definitely. Anger, maybe. But mostly I felt hollow, like a piece of me had been pulled away without warning. Elena took a step forward, her voice shaky. I wasn't trying to hide it to deceive you. I was just afraid. Afraid that if I opened up about everything, you'd look at me differently. I don't look at you differently, I said, finally. I just don't know where I stand anymore. She closed the distance between us, eyes wet, expression raw. You stand where you've always stood. Right in front of me. The only one who stayed when things got real. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to erase everything and go back to when things were simpler. But the truth was, we weren't who we were at the beginning. And maybe that wasn't a bad thing. Then, just when I thought the chaos had settled, her phone rang again. She didn't check it. She just handed it to me, slowly. It was him. The name lit up the screen like a flame, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, certainty. Answer it, she whispered. I hesitated, then picked up. Hello, I said. A pause. Then his voice, low and clipped. Is Elena there? She is, I said, glancing at her. But maybe she shouldn't be hearing from you anymore. He let out a dry laugh. That's not your call. No, but maybe it's hers now. There was silence, and then, tell her I'm not coming back. I froze. What? I needed to see her face again to know it's really over. I wanted answers. But I got them. Tell her thank you. The line went dead. I looked at Elena. She had already guessed what he said from my expression. So, that's it? She asked. I think so, I said. Unless you wanted something else. She shook her head. No. That part of my life. I think it needed to close. It felt like a weight had finally lifted. The space between us wasn't as heavy anymore. She reached out, took my hand, and for the first time in weeks, I felt her fully there with me, not somewhere else in her mind. We didn't speak much after that. We didn't need to. The truth was out. The past had stepped aside, and now all that remained was what we chose next. But just as we sat down on the couch, trying to find peace in the quiet, a knock came at the door. She looked at me, confused. Are you expecting someone? I wasn't. She opened the door slowly. This time, it was him. Not her ex, but my ex. The one who left me a year ago with no explanation. She stood there, holding a small box. Her eyes moved past Elena and landed right on me. Can we talk? She asked. Elena turned to me, stunned. You never told me about her. And just like that, the roles flipped. So now I'll ask you, can two people really build something new when their pasts are still knocking on the door? Would you let her in? Or close the door for good? Tell me in the comments, because what happens next might just change everything. The room felt too small for three people with this much history. My hand was still wrapped in Elena's when my ex stepped into the doorway, box in hand, her voice quieter now. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just needed to return something and say something. Elena didn't say a word. She looked at me, then back at her. Calm, curious, but guarded. My ex held out the box. This was yours. I kept it when I left. I shouldn't have. Inside was the watch I thought I'd lost, a gift I never expected to see again. I disappeared, she said. And you deserved better than that. But I was broken, and I didn't know how to fix myself without breaking you too. I'm sorry. It was a rare kind of closure. Not dramatic. Not chaotic. Just honest. Thank you, I said. That was all I needed. She nodded, glanced at Elena with a small, respectful smile, and walked away. No more drama. No big scene. Just a door closing softly behind her. I turned to Elena. I didn't tell you about her because I didn't think she'd ever come back. I was ready to move forward. With you. She nodded. I know that now. And I'm glad she came. It feels like everything needed to happen just the way it did. We sat together after that, both a little quieter, a little stronger. All the pieces we'd tried so hard to keep hidden were now on the table. And somehow, even with the mess of it all, it felt right. Love isn't always about clean beginnings. Sometimes it's about surviving the in-betweens. About choosing each other even when it's easier to walk away. Elena and I had both been through enough to know what real meant now, and it wasn't about perfect timing or perfect people. It was about showing up. And staying. That night, we cooked dinner together. Not fancy, just something simple. We laughed more than we had in weeks. And when she fell asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder, it didn't feel uncertain anymore. It felt like home. I don't know what the future holds, but I know what matters now. Honesty. Presence. Choosing each other even when it's hard. And maybe that's the kind of love worth waiting for. Now, I want to hear from you. How did you feel about this ending? Would you have handled things differently? Should there be a sequel to Elena and my story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you stayed with us till the very end, thank you. You made this story matter.